Hello everyone, welcome to Game Junk Prototype episode 79, recording on Sunday, October 3rd, 2021. My name is Frank.
My name is Sean.
And my name is Andrew.
And a light week, we'll be talking about some news featuring Konami rumors, a couple developer acquisitions. Might be handing this one off to Sean. He's really passionate about these topics.
Very passionate.
I would like to talk Free Guy, but you're going to have to tune in to Film Junk for that one, because let's just say it was getting heated before the show.
Might get heated.
You might be able to heat Sean's pool with my passion. That's building against Free Guy. It might be a new alternative energy source. But should we get into it? Just get into the news? Let's get into it.
Free Guy launch.
I'll try it.
Go for it.
Sean, you might have to fill in some blanks here, because
yeah,
I'm not that up on it, but apparently, I thought it was official, but rumors that Konami are now working on a Silent Hill, Castlevania, and Metal Gear game. Is that correct? Is that the big three?
That's the big three. I mean, I guess they're saying, so yes, it is a rumor, but we've been hearing stuff like this for a while. It just kind of keeps intensifying and seeming more likely. But I guess the thing is that they may not be working on all of these directly themselves. Like, they may be outsourcing them in some way. They say they are working on some kind of new Castlevania game. Not a lot of details on that. There was talk this week that there's a Metal Gear Solid 3 remake in the works from the developers called Virtuos. I don't know. I think they worked on Switch
Microsoft will be acquiring
Switch.
them next week.
I think they worked on Switch ports for a couple of games, and then I think I can't remember. Jedi Fallen Order. I think they were like a support studio for that. A few other things. So not super well known studio, but apparently they're working on this Metal Gear Solid 3 remake. I don't know if that's an exciting proposition for people. Like, do you guys have thoughts on that as being, like, obviously we worked at Silicon Knights where the original Metal Gear Solid was remade with the Metal Gear Solid 2 engine.
Was that the first major 3D remake? Like, I know there was Super Mario All-Stars and stuff like that were remakes, but I can't think of another 3D remake. Were you a pioneer? Sean, were you part of a revolution?
I don't know. I mean, it was definitely like, it was one of the first where, you're going from PS1, which, trying to play those kind of early 3D games are pretty rough. So then trying to bring them to like a modern engine.
I think it's the first. Was it before Resident Evil 0 or Resident Evil 1 on GameCube? I think it was.
I think so. Probably like around the same time though.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm glad it happened because I love remasters and remakes. They're amazing.
Well, but that's my question though. Like that, so that makes a lot of sense because obviously, as I said, going back to the PS1 games, it's tough now. But something like MGS3.
Hot take: MGS3 to me might be the worst Metal Gear. Like it was in this weird intermediate phase from what I remember, especially when it first came out on PlayStation 3. The Snake Eater versions and other stuff improved upon it. But like the way you had to use the camera to see if you were camouflaged, like it got rid of the vision cones on the enemies. And the idea of the camouflage was like the big mechanic. And it was tough to tell, like if someone could see you, if you were camouflaged. It was not as satisfying, or, the feedback mechanisms were not as strong as traditional Metal Gear games. It improved with like a bit of camera articulation. Like you couldn't get first person camera, or like, I don't know, the camera sucked. That's all I remember. But I mean, it's an okay game. I think maybe with quality of life improvements, it could be better. So I guess I'm kind of excited for that, but I don't know. I don't really care about that. I guess it's interesting that I think, how long ago was it that Konami shut down all their franchises and were just making arcade games or something like that, and mobile games?
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like it's been a few years now for sure.
Yeah, it was a while ago.
It was after Lords of Shadow 2 or around then, I think.
Yeah, and I mean, so it sounds like I think this report was kind of hinting that they're ready to get back into consoles a bit, although maybe not directly. So that could be a good thing. I mean,
Well,
obviously.
what's their stock been doing? Let's see that Konami stock.
Well, I was just going to mention they just launched eFootball, which apparently did not go so well. I don't know. Did you check that out at all, Huck?
No, I don't even know where I can check it out.
Because it's free to play, but yeah, I'm not sure if it's PC only or.
I have not heard anything about it, though I have been kind of tuned out of all podcasts and everything this past week or two, so I haven't heard anything about it.
It looks like it was pretty high up until 2003 or maybe 2002, and then it took a big dip, and it's been going up actually. So I'm kind of surprised. I thought that they were probably like just putting this out there to bump up stock price, thinking like this is probably what they should be making anyway and how they made money to begin with, but I don't know how people make money, so it's clearly not just about making good games.
So it looks like eFootball is out for a bunch of consoles. It says PS5 and Series X, but I'm not seeing if there is actually a PS5.
And Sean, I don't know if you said on the show yet that Kojima was rumored to be working on.
Yeah, so this was another thing that came out. I don't know if it was direct. Like there was a bunch of stories that were all kind of connected, but I don't know if they all came from the same source. I feel like they were all different sources. But this one was that, just that there's this rumor, and obviously this has kind of been around already, but just that Kojima Productions is working on a Silent Hill game specifically for PS5. Sony is
Currently titled Abandoned.
Yeah, well, there's that whole thing too. But Sony's apparently partially funding it, and the part of the report was that when Kojima and Konami kind of broke up, Sony's been slowly kind of trying to patch that up and be the middleman, and I don't know if it's working or what.
They're probably just trying to work the license with Sony and let him do his thing and
maybe
get some kind of creative control and access to the license, which would fall in line with maybe how they're approaching all these games as like just, okay, we own the IP, go make us a good version, game developers. And well, I mean, that's what they did with Kojima with Lords of Shadow, right? It was like kind of a Kojima production, and like he helped with that game.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure.
You're talking about the Castlevania Lords of Shadow?
I'm almost positive Kojima was involved in that. Yeah, Kojima Productions.
Huh. I must say, though, it's not surprising that Konami is outsourcing these jobs. Like I don't think they have any development studios other than whatever team works on the soccer. So I'm not surprised. It doesn't really surprise me that they're using these licenses that they have. Why would they just let them sit dormant when they could basically just say, here, go make something, and then we'll take whatever, 20% or 50% or whatever.
And if it's not, we'll cancel it or whatever. We'll keep it and make the money.
Yeah, seems like a smart business decision to have someone do something with it.
I mean, at this point, it's not like you can devalue those franchises much, right? They haven't been out for a while. Anything that's moderately good, I'm sure people want or they'll be excited about. So it might have been overkill at one point. So I don't know. I'm excited, but I think the move would be to make a new 2D Castlevania for the Switch and other consoles after this Castlevania Advance Collection. I think that would be a shorter development time and something people would want really bad, and start to work your way up from there. That'd be the first thing I'd release.
That would be cool. I think they did say Castlevania was, like, in terms of timeline, the first one on the list, even though it's kind of the one we've heard the least about.
I didn't know that. You heard it here first. So it's pretty obvious to me. Metroid Dread is probably going to sell a lot of copies, and I think just like they copied Metroid to begin with, they'll copy it again. Metroid likes for the win.
And I guess just on the Silent Hill thing, there was also, going back to the summer, I don't know if we talked about this, but Bloober Team did sign some kind of deal with Konami, and everybody was assuming they were working on a Silent Hill game, but that was never confirmed.
Bloober?
So, yeah, Bloober.
What did they
So,
make again?
Blair Witch Project and The Medium. So I don't know if that's like, it sounds like if the Kojima is doing the Silent Hill thing, then maybe they are working on something completely different, but not sure.
I could see Bloober working on maybe a Silent Hill remake of the first Silent Hill, while Kojima works on his vision of Silent Hill, maybe inspired by PT and maybe a first-person version that looks something like Abandoned.
Could be.
Looks exactly like Abandoned.
On the Abandoned thing, did anyone check out the actual app that they released?
It actually launched? I thought it got delayed a bunch of times. And
No, it actually launched. And so this was a couple months ago, and I haven't checked back. But when it originally launched, I downloaded the app. You go into the app, and there's a trailer that plays. One single trailer. And it was the most ridiculous. Like, it was like 10 seconds of somebody walking. And then it just said, more coming soon. And that's when I was like, okay, this has got to be some kind of joke or some kind of clever viral marketing, because like who in the right mind
wasn't even a playable trailer? The irony.
Yeah.
WT, watchable trailer.
And like, I haven't really been following it since, so I don't know. I'm sure this has been debunked to some degree already, but like, it's just crazy that they put out this special app on PlayStation just to watch trailers for their game, and then the trailers are nothing. Like,
is it still there? Like, is there reviews on the PlayStation Store?
I don't know. Good question.
I'm gonna look that up. So let's get into the other brief news items that Sean wanted to bring up, which I'm thankful for because I really haven't been paying attention this week. But I did hear that the Oxenfree developers, what's the name of that studio?
Night School Studio, I think.
Night School were acquired by Netflix
That's
to work
right.
on games for their platform, along with them launching games for Android on their Android app in, was it Europe, Sean?
Yeah, I think Poland. I want to say Germany and one other country, I think, but I could be wrong. Yeah, so, well, we talked a while back, just kind of speculated, like what, everybody's saying, okay, Netflix is getting into games. What does that look like? What kind of games could Netflix possibly be doing? And I think we kind of all agreed that they would be probably simple, kind of mobile style games, whether they actually were mobile games or something you could play on your TV at home, I'm not sure. But this seems like a pretty good indication of that. That's kind of what they're doing. The 3 games that they soft launched, if I can find it here, they're called Shooting Hoops, Teeter Up, and Card Blast. So, I mean, I haven't tried them, but they definitely seem like they're just casual games. I believe they are on the Android app only, and there's like a new tab on the Netflix Android app for games, and that's where you can find these. And I think they also added the Stranger Things games that they already did. So, I mean, that's kind of what we're looking at, which is not that exciting. But then the Oxenfree studio acquisition is a little more exciting. I mean, I didn't finish Oxenfree. I would like to finish it, but from what I played of it, I kind of liked it. But it is very much a simple, story-driven, narrative-based game, which makes a lot of sense, I think, for Netflix.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that they would go out and acquire, I would say, a pretty well-known studio to make that is only going to put out a game maybe every 2 to 3 years, unless they are planning on ramping them up even more. But it seems like for something like Netflix, you'd want more content more often if you're going to ramp up this gaming sector. So maybe there is more acquisitions coming, but it does seem also a little strange that, like, the games you mentioned obviously seem like touch device only. And I'm wondering how much of their audience is touch device versus TV. And obviously with like Apple TV, you have that Siri remote that has a little touchpad, but with Netflix, it can play on any TV. You don't know what sort of device or what the remote can do necessarily. You could probably make certain assumptions about what the buttons can do, but definitely not a touch pad of any type. So you can't really do any like mouse cursor type things.
There might be
So
phone integration if you're on the same network where like you can
okay,
switch things on your like almost a Jackbox type situation or something like that.
okay,
Could
Yeah.
have
yeah. I mean,
party movies where you watch a movie as a group or a story, an interactive story, and people vote on choices. I mean, I would think of it that I'd be hiring the Oxenfree developers to create a like a system for content that other content creators and storytellers can fill with lots of options, so that it's kind of a way of, like you said, they probably need lots of different versions and games to ship. So can we build mechanisms for gameplay design that work on Netflix, maybe do some of our own, and an engine for Netflix, so to speak, that we can give to other people to fill it.
yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, and just a couple other quick points. So they did say that Oxenfree 2 is not affected by this. That's still, under development, will come out on other platforms. It's not a Netflix game. And yeah, I guess I don't know. I was thinking about it from the point of view of like Night School being acquired by Netflix. Like, what if you're a game studio and Netflix comes to you and says, "Hey, we want to acquire you." I mean, what are you thinking, right? Like, is that
Show me the money. What do you think? Like that's it. That's all it's about.
But I mean, it's also like a bit of a risk, right? Like you're going to be known as the Netflix game company. Like
Sean, never. If as long as they have one established thing, like I think it's the best situation for a company like that, because as long as you somewhat trust Netflix, that's where the risk comes into play. But I think Netflix has proven to somewhat be at least in support of content and content creators, right? Like they tend to give, in my opinion, sometimes too much artistic liberty to people that are making stuff for their platform. So worst case scenario, the Netflix stuff sucks. No one plays it. And then they get to do a marketing thing where we're having Night School make games again and everyone is happy and they love it. So it's a win-win. And unless they literally hate their lives working for Netflix, it's a great move.
Well, that's the risk. That's the risk you got to run, because people can easily leave. It's not like you're locking in these people. Like they probably have some sort of thing where the founders are locked in for a certain amount of years, or some sort of non-compete for a certain amount of years. But everyone else that works at that studio could just up and leave right away if they wanted to. So that's the risky thing about acquiring a studio, is that, okay, you get the IP, but you're also kind of hoping that the people who work there stick around to keep making those games that you're buying them for. And I think it's you could compare it to the Ready at Dawn and their acquisition with Facebook, but the difference there is that Facebook has Oculus Quest and like Quest 2 and stuff, and that's what they were focusing on. They were focusing on pure VR. So you have a VR company saying, "Hey, come make VR company games for our VR thing," right? Whereas this is like, "Hey, we're a movie streaming app. Come make games for our movie streaming app and take away your games from gaming consoles." Like, it's a little weird.
Yeah.
Must have been a good amount of money, I would say.
Yeah, obviously the money is a big factor, and I'm sure, they're a smaller indie studio, and just to know that they've got that kind of backing is huge. And probably big exposure, right? Like everyone's got Netflix, so whatever game you make, people are going to have access to it, which is great. But then you just got to think, like, what kinds of games are we making here? And like, is this suddenly like any other things we were thinking about developing? Now we've just got to work with this technology that they're developing, whatever it is.
Yeah, you're going to be forced down the route of now making like Candy Crush instead of like narrative games.
Exactly.
So
I don't know. But
and then what was the other one? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna finish on the Netflix thing and just say, like, it's not it sounds like they're basically doing the kinds of games we thought at this point. Nothing insane. So, I don't know that they're competing with Xbox or PlayStation at this point.
But there's nothing to stop them from publishing games for other platforms either.
That's true. Yeah, so the other news story, which I don't know how much we have to say, but just that Sony acquired Bluepoint Games, who did the Demon's Soul remake, among other remakes.
Yeah, which, their remakes have been really good. It's not a needle mover for me. I guess we'll see if they do their own IPs. I'm sure they will, but it's a reasonable acquisition. It seems like they work together a lot. Now, since we're talking Sony Universe, I do have to mention Blue Haze. And Sean,
yeah,
you have new lights. You have a Sony light and an Xbox light behind you.
Yeah.
It's tough for me to tell the color. I'm assuming the Sony one is blue and the Xbox one is white.
The Xbox One is white. I'm a little disappointed it wasn't green. I thought it might be green.
But it's interesting because it's so appropriate because your poster, which is kind of blue as well, it's just taking over. Like the Blue Haze is dominating the Xbox light to the point where everything just looks blue. It's perfect.
I was trying to think if there's a way I could like wire it so that as soon as Frank starts going on a PlayStation rant, I can like bump up the blue light.
Blue Haze here.
Well, you've already got Blue Haze being activated over there, but
maybe I can't. Maybe I unplugged it. I think for my heating blanket.
What a disaster.
Yeah, just on the Bluepoint thing, they did say, or I guess not as part of this announcement, but again, a separate sort of rumor that comes from a reliable source said that they are working on two projects right now, one being an original IP and the other being a remake of a beloved classic. But I guess that's, you think that they acquire a studio like this because they've been successful with the remakes and they want to keep doing the remakes. But I think studios like this, eventually the people working there want to do original stuff. You don't want to just work on remakes forever. And I think that's a natural evolution. I guess the question is, do they have if a studio has just been doing remakes for years and years, do they have the design talent to create original stuff, right? Like, that's the one question I would have.
I would say probably yes, or at least they could make a good attempt at it. Everyone who gets into games doesn't get into games to port other people's games. I don't want to do this necessarily forever kind of thing.
I agree, but I do agree with the premise of Sean's question. Like, if you have not had to come up with original design ideas, it's not as easy as you might think. So I'm curious to see what happens there as well.
At the same time, you don't know what they've been working on behind the scenes. Like, they're not necessarily only porting. They could be working on stuff behind the scenes already. They could have, prototypes on the go, fully fleshed out game ideas, game design docs. So they could still have all that stuff, and it's just not public facing. Also, the one thing I wanted to add is this was also kind of the worst kept secret. I don't know if you guys remember, but when the Sony acquired Housemarque, I think I'm reading an article. It says PlayStation Japan's Twitter accidentally tweeted out a picture that they had acquired Bluepoint. Yeah. So they're like, oops, yeah, that perfectly mocked up image was just a mistake. Sure it was. You just accidentally put the wrong company logo in there. So it's been known. This happened in early July, so it's been a while coming.
We need Sony to acquire Game Junk as the official PlayStation podcast.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
We
should trademark
an official one,
and we definitely got to trademark Blue Haze, right? We got to get on that, Sean. Come on, as the biz dev guy of Game Junk,
maybe we should trademark that. For real. Blue Haze podcast. Let's go straight PlayStation.
We'll have a spinoff.
Get real here.
That's getting cut.
So why, we left the meat on the bone here. The only fun thing to talk about is what the beloved IP is that they're working on. What would you want it to be, and what do you think it is?
So it's got to be a Sony property, right? You would have to be.
I mean, there's 3 things I want it to be. Jak and Daxter 1, Resistance Collection, but I feel like Insomniac would do that themselves. And maybe Killzone 1. But I think it's Jak and Daxter. I'm guessing the world thinks it's the first Uncharted game, or maybe the Last of Us first game, but I think it's going to be Jak and Daxter.
Hasn't there been rumors of SOCOM doing something with SOCOM?
Would SOCOM work as a remake though? Like, I didn't play it much. It's like very multiplayer based, and
yeah,
I don't know if it's a beloved single player game. Could be wrong.
Twisted Metal, maybe.
Well,
there has been a lot of Twisted Metal rumors.
Yeah, I was going to mention that because there were some rumors, and then I think just in the past week there was some other almost straight up confirmation that Twisted Metal is happening, but I don't know if there's much other details.
And they wouldn't do like Infamous, because Sucker Punch would probably do that themselves.
You know, it probably is the lame answer to like one of Last of Us or Uncharted, because like Bluepoint is semi photorealistic, most of their stuff, and like really good lighting that I think those older games could benefit from, and that's what I would lean towards. But
wait, hang on, it's obviously Knack.
It's already we're going down the Knack well. It's time for a remake.
Well, what about Dark Souls? Like, has that been remade?
Well, no, but it's not. Like, Demon Souls was PlayStation exclusive.
Okay.
Dark Souls wasn't, so I doubt they would give that to Bluepoint to make
it's
possible.
That makes sense then.
But
yeah, I don't know. I'm
doubtful.
I can't think of too many other big Sony franchises that need to make a comeback right now. We've kind of talked about most of them already.
Patapon? I don't think that's really a Bluepoint-esque port, but
I don't care if it's a remake. I don't care if it's Bluepoint. I want Folklore. It was a PlayStation 3 RPG, and it was pretty good, and I feel like it would be appreciated more now. It was a decent game. That's about it. All right, moving on.
Yep.
Gonna get into some junk mail?
Sure.
All right. So Matthew from Fort Worth. Hey guys, I was debating between these 3 games that should be my 200th plat. Alan Wake, Far Cry 6, or Fatal Frame, Maiden of Blackwater. But which one? Open to other games, but looking forward to these 3 coming out in October. So, I mean, I'm assuming they're at 199. I don't know how they're scheduling out these plats. It feels like you got a big window wasted right now. I mean, I have not played any more Kenna, but that feels like it would be a good one.
I would say Far Cry 6 would be maybe a little too hard to get in October. It's going to be a huge game. I think Fatal Frame, though I don't know much about it, kind of fits
Matthew's
into the
got 200 plats. He's going to plat Far Cry. He's got 3 or 4 weeks. Like, that's
true. I would say Fatal Frame, though, fits into the whole October Halloween aspect of it. Same with Alan Wake, but if you're looking to play the Alan Wake remaster that's supposedly coming out, maybe you want to wait.
That's the
Alan
one.
Wake.
There is no other Alan Wake one. These are all games that are coming out in October.
Oh, that's what it is? Okay. I get it now.
I mean, that was my question is like, have you played Alan Wake before, or are you replaying it? Like, if you haven't played it before, then I would say go for that. But otherwise, it's a toss-up. But yeah, I don't know. Like for such a momentous occasion, I don't know. Do you want a platinum that's going to be a real challenge that, you're really going to have to feel like you earned it? or do you want to just coast through it and enjoy it? I don't know. It's an interesting
Frank to
question.
answer.
Yeah, one I will never have to answer.
Or
I'm looking at other October releases. I mean, it's tough. Like Back for Blood is the game I'm most excited for, but
you don't want to be locked into
tough
multiplayer.
platinum. Yeah. Oh
Yeah.
yeah. That's bad news. Jet: The Far Shore comes out this week. That's something I would have my eye on.
Mm-hmm.
But that's about it. I mean, Guardians of the Galaxy, I have a feeling it's going to be a short game. That's October 26th, but then you're waiting a long time to play a game. So I'm leaning towards Jet: The Far Shore.
Have you heard anything about that? Are there any reviews out there?
Nope. No, nothing. Other than what I've seen in 20 different showcases over the summer.
Yeah.
It was in everything. Okay, next. Blake from Boston, longtime listener. Good guy. Hey, gay men. Frankie briefly washed over the topic of sounds emanating from controllers during your Death Proof discussion and made the controversial claim that speakers and controllers is a good thing. Well, I agree with Hideo Kojima first coming to mind, who implemented interesting uses of this noisy peripheral feature, i.e. Sony Walkman robot lady noises in Metal Gear Solid 5 and hydrophobic crying tube baby in Death Stranding. Can you think of other games that use these controller speakers in unique and interesting ways? Blue Haze Away, Blake from Boston. I don't have like a one that blew my mind that comes to mind. I liked the first one I thought of instinctively was, I think, Twilight Princess, when if you did the bow and arrow and you would draw the Wii mote back, because like the flick would go right by your ear and it would sound like you were releasing a bow or an arrow right by your ear, which I thought was really cool when the speaker was on there.
Yeah, I mean, that's the first thing that came to my mind was just that game and a few other Wii games, because I think that was the first controller that had a speaker on it, right?
I think so too.
And I mean, it hasn't really been used that much recently. I guess Sony has kind of stepped it up a little bit with the DualSense, it seems like, and obviously Deathloop uses it a lot if you want it to. But yeah, I was just gonna say that I feel like Wii Sports had some stuff. I could be wrong, but I thought it used it a little bit.
I'm doing a generic internet search. Let's see.
I can't think of anything. The only thing I thought was, I haven't played, but what about like Astro's Playroom or Rec Room or whatever it's called? Did that do anything? The new one? That was interesting.
Yeah, they did some stuff, like nothing like, mind blowing, but they definitely had some sounds. Like I'm trying to think, the PS4 one, when you like shoot the guy out of the controller to start the level, that was kind of cool, right? Like I think you could hear him inside the controller, and then you like flick the touchpad to shoot him out.
Yeah,
or something.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
No, I have not played this game fully, and I think when I played it, it might not have been on PlayStation. But Alien Isolation apparently is number 1 on this list.
I do played that on
any of the launch games on PlayStation 4 kind of had to use it, and they were pretty good. I just like it in general. I think it adds like just a polish level, or it is a gimmick, but it's a gimmick I like.
Yep.
Sorry, not a great answer, but what are you gonna do? Hello, Junkers. I'm currently wrapping up my first playthrough of Sekiro, and it's already one of my favorite games of all time. I happened to re-listen to your Best of 2019 podcast, and Frank only had it ranked 4th in what he said was one of the worst years of gaming. That is correct. Now I've heard Frank praise the game since, but I need an explanation of this travesty of a ranking before I lose all hope. Thanks, Bobby. Well, it's true. I was way off. I'm trying to think of what my other games... Let's see. So I probably had Fallen Order as number 1. And That's all that's really jumping to mind right now. But I'm pretty sure Fallen Order was number one that year. And it's, in retrospect, clearly Sekiro. I don't know how much I'd played of Sekiro at the time. I did find that I wasn't crazy about the. Oh, first of all, I don't think I played more than an hour in 2019, is why it wasn't on my list. I think I started it in 2020. And I think the summer of 2020, I platinumed it. So I just kind of missed the boat on my first playthrough.
So it
and
was number 4 on your list after having played an hour. So that's pretty good.
yeah, maybe that's not true either. Maybe I was just starting to get into it. Like, but I remember hating the grappling mechanics, like, and the wall grab were really bad. And I still think they're really bad. I think that's the stuff they can improve in the second one. But I didn't realize how inconsequential that would be to the overall game, having played it for many more hours since then. So, yeah, I was just wrong. It's a game that takes a large commitment too. And, you know, you got to get good at it and fully understand it before you truly appreciate it. That's definitely a problem with it. But I think we can all agree that Control is a piece of garbage, and that came out that year. It'd be on anyone's.
Yeah, I was trying to think of what would be ahead of yours. The only thing I can think of is Resident Evil 2 and maybe Death Stranding.
No, I didn't put that. I think Sayonara
Sayonara Wild Hearts.
Wild Hearts, I think, might have been my number 3, but I don't know.
So
It was not a good year, though. Not a good year. I stand by that statement, too.
So this just reminds me of something, because you know how we were talking a while back about letterboxed type apps for games, and some people gave us some recommendations. I just wanted to mention I signed up for the GG app,
That's
which
what I'm on too.
not the best name,
No.
but I'm actually liking it quite a bit, and I want some people to add. So you know, let us know what you are on this. I'm Dwired, Dwired.
And have you
And
even been able to figure out how to add people? Because
I've added a few people.
someone added me. I don't know how to find people.
I'll see if I can find you. But I was just going to say, you can put lists on here too. So this would be a good place to put like our top 10 lists and stuff and have easy access to them.
Yeah, maybe you have to do it on the app. I've been doing it on the website, so
Oh, okay. Yeah, maybe.
to find other people.
Okay. So next from Yuri, there's a link to a Kickstarter project about using your body as a game controller. I'm just kind of briefly glancing at it. Did it make its goal? Yes, it did. It looks like. And from what I can tell, it looks like it's an updated version or a different technology for doing the same type of thing Kinect did. It looks like.
Seems like it.
Kind of taking your body motions and translating it onto models in games.
It's designed for VR specifically, though, right? Looks
Okay.
like.
Yeah, which, I mean, I've seen there's other controllers like treadmill controllers and stuff like that. I don't know if just being able to lift your legs is all that interesting or adds an element to VR that isn't there already. I'm sure there's a few one-off opportunities there. For dance games, probably is the only thing that comes to mind. But I don't know. My needle is not moving. I guess from the elegance of this is like its simplicity, maybe. Do you have to put one on every limb? Like, yeah, put one on all 4 limbs, even your head potentially. I don't know how appealing that sounds. But
Yeah. I mean, so his question too was, is this exciting or quote unquote, let me be a couch potato? Which is an interesting debate, I find. Like whenever I play VR, I do like games where I'm standing and I feel like I'm more engaged with the game. But, you know, to play like, you know, 2 or 3 hours like that, after a while, you kind of get a sore back. You're just like, I can't do this. So it's tough.
The only thing I can think of is like if you have the sensors in your legs, then you could, in theory, kind of walk in place to mimic walking forward in a VR instead of using the sticks or whatever. But then you run into the whole motion sickness thing because maybe you're not actually like your brain is seeing you move but knows it's not actually moving. So I'm not sure how that will affect. Whereas like
Isn't
now,
this
like I have to do the teleport.
isn't this kind of an extrapolation or that idea of what Ring Fit does? Not Wii Fit, but Ring Fit Adventure. It's just like adding more Wiimotes or Joy-Cons on your legs and arms and kind of doing the same thing with HD rumble or their gyroscopes or whatever they do. So I don't know. I'm not saying there's not potential for body controllers in the future, but part of me thinks we're just going to go straight from couch potato to being able to perceive thoughts. Yes, exactly. I think anything in between will be clumsy, and it's kind of the I would make an analogy to the Palm Pilots and Steve Jobs saying, "Why would I use a stylus when I have 5 right here?" and stuff like that. Like it just seems like an intermediate step that, or maybe I don't know. I think we're going to translate thought at some point. It's probably not for another 50 years, I would think, but everything in the middle, I can't think of a good version of it at all.
Agreed.
Yeah. I mean, there could be a few cool, unique games that would use it, but trying to think of using this in just like your standard, first-person shooter or action adventure game, I don't know if there's that many applications for it.
I guess the only other thing I could think of would literally be if we were going to do it, it would have to be comfortable. Like I could see it being like a t-shirt or pants, like a jogging suit that you wear that has that technology in it. Then I could possibly see that. But it's the actual motion thing that I think is the deal breaker. Like a treadmill controller and all that stuff. I can't see that being done elegantly.
Well, I think the treadmill thing is being done. I don't know how good it works. I feel like that would work better than this for movement.
Yeah, I agree.
At least you can track how much you're actually moving and stuff.
Feels kind of unsafe though. I don't know. Like,
yeah. Oh yeah, definitely.
All right. Sorry. Couch potato remains. And then I think this is the last one, which was on our YouTube channel as a comment. Check out youtube.com/GameJunk. And it's from Wacom Lothric. Is that correct?
I think Joakim.
Joakim? Okay, my bad. Well, Joakim, I apologize. Game Junk question. With the announcements of several superhero games from many different companies and studios, are you worried games will end up the same way blockbuster movies has gone in the last decade? Are Disney, Marvel, DC, and superheroes in general taking over in the game space as well? I feel like we might have alluded to this before. I definitely think that's where everything's going. Everything is going to be licensed, which is kind of brutal. I think we're already there almost, except for the indie landscape. So I think that's where these two things are going to diverge, and I'm happy with that. I like indie companies coming up with their own ideas and doing cool things. I don't think any company will take a risk on a new IP these days. Like it's really, I know Sony was getting flack for this, but they actually seem to be the only ones that are doing that, like Returnal and stuff like that. And I don't know, the other, like, what's the new Xbox IP over the last who knows how long?
Just the Bethesda ones, I guess. I mean, yeah.
But yeah.
Would the medium count? I guess not, right?
It would count as a failure, and why people will not. It's not exclusive either, so.
Oh, right, yeah.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned the indie thing, because even I think it's even permeating the indie space a bit. Like I'm thinking of like John Wick Hex, which was made by Bithell Games, and I feel like there's a few other examples of smaller, like the Mummy Demastered. Maybe that's not really indie, but yeah, I mean, I think this is happening. I know we talked about this. There was that. I think last year there was like a span of like 2 weeks where I think there was a new James Bond game announced, Indiana Jones, and then like a couple Star Wars games. And it just seemed like, yeah, this is happening now. And because they've kind of figured out how to do licensed games that aren't terrible, that people are actually excited about. And the whole thing is just don't tie it to the movie release. Do like, a separate thing with that IP.
I guess it's
And
worth saying established video game IPs are included in this landscape. Like, I think if
yeah,
it's a
I guess that's true.
well-known video game IP, that's fine too. It's just anything new is going to be really tough to do.
I haven't totally thought this out, but my first inkling was the opposite of you guys. I kind of think like the neat thing about the video game industry is that it seems like it kind of goes in waves where I feel like we're kind of reaching the point probably in like we're starting to come around back to the point we were at in like the peak of Unreal Engine days where like you needed $1 million to license this engine to be able to make a game. And that was like the big impediment. So we only got games from studios that could license the Unreal Engine. Indies were not a thing. Basically, all the games that put out were only big money. Not that doesn't make them good. And now we're kind of reaching another thing where like all of the big studios that can make these big giant games are getting bought out. They're consolidating. They're going to run out of ideas. You can't just remake Assassin's Creed and Far Cry and Uncharted all the time.
I think you
They're
can.
going to run out of ideas. Well, you can. I know you can. But eventually, the nice thing is that the indies still are coming up with good ideas. Where before, when we were in the game industry and we were at this peak of Unreal, there was no indies, and it was only until like Braid and I don't know what are some of the other big indie games that came out around that time when Braid came through, Super Meat Boy, I guess, and that kind of stuff. Those games started breaking through, and those were kind of like the fed up AAA guys that were like, screw this, I'm gonna go on do something on my own, and I still think that's gonna eventually come back around, and then bigger studios will be able to take over those IPs or whatever. Like the smaller IPs will become big, and
That I think could happen.
and then the other thing is that with the new tech that's coming out with like Unreal Engine 5 and being able to make humans look incredible with very little work, all the like photogrammetry stuff that you can buy on like the Unity and Unreal marketplace now, that is lowering the cost of like a quote unquote like AAA game. So eventually the cost will come down. Like all the big studios are like, I couldn't possibly spend $500 million to make a non-licensed IP, but that cost will come down as the technology catches up to the next gen consoles. And I think once that cost gets down, we'll see new IP come out again. I think we're just at this phase now where the big companies are still trying to figure out the tech to make giant games, and they haven't yet. So they're sticking with what's safe and what will make their money back. And then once, everyone adopts all the new tech that makes it faster and easier to put out content, I think you'll start to see another swing back to original stuff that makes it interesting again. But yeah, I think the next couple of years are going to be crap.
Well, I think we're kind of already at this, like when I look at, I think in the way they phrased the question, it was dominating the game space, which is not to say they're not going to make, smaller games, but I mean, every game coming, the only new thing I can see, well, Deathloop was, so that's, I guess, not true. I don't know what New World's doing, if that's a big deal. Everything else is a sequel except for Back for Blood, which is a spiritual successor. So, like, it already dominates the game space. I guess the question might be more about, like, is it going to be specifically movie licensed stuff? And I don't think that's the case. I think video game licenses are just as powerful, if not more so, in the video game world. But I think it's going to be like when's the last time Nintendo came up with a new IP? I guess it was Splatoon.
Probably Splatoon, yeah.
So they've really not ventured from stuff that is already popular. And I don't know. I can't see a lot of companies doing that. I hope I'm wrong. I'm sick of sequels and the same stuff over and over again. So
I do think people are like within games. I think gamers are still at least willing to entertain new IPs from developers that they are a fan of, right? Like Bethesda announces Starfield or whatever. People are excited. So I don't know that we'll ever, I mean, maybe we will, but I don't know we'll ever get to the point where people are ignoring that and not buying those games because all they want is like a new Star Wars game.
that's true. But excitement can be a dangerous thing too, to the point of, is it worth the risk? Like Cyberpunk would be the recent example of that, where because they like that developer, it's assumed it's going to be amazing when it isn't. So I don't know. I think it probably sold well. I don't think it's like a deal breaker, but unless people are in love with the world and stuff like that, I don't think the big money is going to take the risk. But I really like Huck's point about the money will not be as big. But I think new IP is going to probably start in like what used to be the AA landscape, where it's like, okay, let's make a shorter game with new ideas, and if people like it, then it becomes a bigger thing. Probably something similar to what's happening with Hellblade or those types of games. So it's all about where it starts.
I do hope we see a resurgence of like that AA space, shorter experiences, tighter, but like still borderline AAA, but obviously not. And
Kenna, I think, would fall into that category too.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. That's it for the junk mail. Thanks for sending it in. You can send, these are really good ones. Send more into gamejunkpodcast@gmail.com, on our Discord, which is in the YouTube show notes on youtube.com/gamejunk, or hit up Game Junk Podcast on Twitter. Do you guys check that?
Yep.
Sean does.
Okay, cool. Thanks, Sean. You're the best. And I guess it's time for what we played. I really don't have anything. I've been playing Fortnite a bit with friends. I kind of like Fortnite. It's not great, but it's fun to play with friends.
Well, maybe should we mention something else we played, or is that top secret?
Yeah, sorry, we should. Absolutely.
Okay. Well,
we played Predator Hunting Grounds, which is, I think, a PlayStation Plus game until Tuesday. Monday's the last day.
I think so.
And it's like a multiplayer asymmetrical design where people play as the Predator versus mercenaries. And it was okay. We'll be putting it on a game or a Film Junk Let's Play on our Patreon.
What?
Filmjunk.com.
What?
Patreon.
How dare you guys? You're cheating on Game Junk? I can't believe you guys.
And
unbelievable.
It was better than I thought it would be. I don't know if I could play it sustainably for a long time, but playing as the Predator, I thought was really good. Almost to the point where I kind of wish it was just a Predator campaign or a game with those Predator controls, because that was fun. The mercenary stuff was kind of generic, but not that bad. We played with bots too, which was a little weird and took a while to get the sense of what a match was like, but it was good.
Yeah, definitely fun for, playing for an hour or whatever we did. I don't know about the depth of the game, but I do hear that it's a problem when you start going online and playing with other people. It's just everybody wants to be the Predator. So it's kind of like, you just sit there waiting until you can find 4 other people who don't want to be Predator. But yeah.
Sounds like exactly what I would think would happen based on my experience. The Predator is a lot of fun.
Yeah. So did you finish Kenna or no?
No, I haven't played it at all.
Okay.
I've dropped the ball. Just games. I don't know what it is. It's embarrassing. I can't get into it lately.
Metroid this week. That's all you need to know,
I know.
Right? Okay. I'll quickly mention Deathloop. I've played a little bit more of it again, and I kind of hit a point where I don't know, I just got a little bit frustrated with it because I was enjoying it. I kind of, like I said, I got past, I guess, what the full tutorial would be, and I understand sort of how you can keep weapons and abilities through the loops. and I'm kind of into like what the main thrust of the game is, which is trying to beat all these different visionaries. But I kind of hit a point where I just like was dying a lot, and you can die 3 times before you get sent to the start of the day, essentially, and that is frustrating. It feels a little bit like there is a bit of roguelike in there, I feel like, because I guess you can optionally try and go into other levels and try to just kill enemies and power yourself up with some things to take with you to what you're trying to do. If you keep dying, that's one way to get past that. But that doesn't appeal to me that much. Like I'd rather just go and try to do the thing I'm supposed to do next. And also the slabs, is that what they're called? Those things you can, if you kill the same visionary multiple times, you can level those up, which I was kind of like, ugh, now there's another system and another thing that I'm going to feel like I got to repeat over and over again to get better. So anyway, I mean, I kind of took a break from that and started playing Sable, which I'll talk about in a sec, but I'll throw it over to Huck if you have something you want to talk about.
Well, I finished Night in the Woods. Really enjoyed it. One commenter was saying like this game really hit them hard and they loved it. And I don't know if I had the same experience. There was definitely like some what's the word I'm looking for? Like disturbing, I guess, aspects to the relationships that of the people you are talking to. So I could see how someone had a similar or a relationship close to them that was similar. It could be really emotionally effective. But I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really good. It sort of ended at a weird point in the story. I don't know. It kind of just kind of plateaued in a really weird way, and then was kind of over shortly after. But I liked it a lot. And quickly, I tried Paper Mario and the Origami King, which is the newest Paper Mario game. And once again, Paper Mario forgets that people like to be able to quickly skip through dialogue. This game loves to force you to see every single letter as it appears on the screen, even though I can read faster than the letters are appearing, and I just want to go faster. That part's super frustrating. The game itself was okay. I don't think I'll go back to it. I got it out of the old library, luckily, and they had an interesting battle mechanic where it wasn't just a turn-based battle. They have this sort of like ring system where the enemies come in like groups of 4 usually, and they're either kind of lined up in a straight line or in a group, and you have a different weapon that can take care of a line of enemies or a group of enemies. And
sounds a bit like the South Park sequel.
Yes, in that regard. The twist on that is that instead of having like a 2x2 grid, that like in the South Park game, you have this like circle, and the circles have rings. So there's like 4 rings around the circle, and the guys are placed on them in, I wouldn't say random, but they're kind of like scattered, and you get a certain number of, you get to move the rings. You get to like rotate the rings to try to line them up properly. So you get a certain number of ring turns and then a certain number of attacks. And so far what I played of the first hour or so, it's all very, very straightforward. There's no real like tactical thinking that needs to be done. It's literally like this guy was shifted 2 to the right and it's super obvious. Just shift him back and then they're all in line kind of thing. So I didn't really find that part that compelling. There was some like overworld puzzle mechanics where you take these like pieces of paper, confetti type stuff, and you fill in holes in the world. And I guess like
divine confetti.
Yeah, you can hit trees. You can hit trees with a hammer, and then confetti comes out of it, and then you could collect it in a bag. It's very exciting.
That's one of my first memories of you, Andrew.
What, playing Paper Mario?
You're playing Paper Mario at Silicon Nights.
Really? Oh yeah.
Yeah, on your lunch.
Nice.
I think on the Wii. It might have been GameCube or Wii. I can't remember.
I don't know.
I remember
Maybe
you playing a Paper Mario game.
All right. Go ahead, guys. Anything else? I got one more quick thing, but
yeah, well, just on the Paper Mario thing, like I played probably like halfway through that game. Put a lot of well, not a lot, but I guess a lot for me, like maybe 15, 20 hours into it. It just got too long. But the one thing you were talking about the dialogue and stuff, like I actually do kind of like the dialogue in those games. Like I find they're kind of humorous and, not amazing, but like with both those and the Mario and Luigi games, I generally don't mind reading some of that stuff. Although it is definitely long winded at times, but
Oh
I
yeah.
would say Nintendo is underrated for, I know I said with Skyward Sword, they're underrated for cinematics being effective and funny for what they are and the camera work. And they're also underrated as video game writing. It's very simple and funny, but like at a PG level, which is tough to do.
yeah,
But
I agree.
we also have to put this in the perspective that Sean thought Free Guy was funny. So
I didn't say that. I said I thought it was
I know, I'm just
clever
kidding.
and
Relax, bud. Brian Reynolds
we'll
isn't
get
coming
into it.
for you. Chill out.
Okay, so you didn't have anything else, Frank?
No, I guess I played Toem for like 30 minutes, but not enough that I liked it, but not enough to say anything definitive.
Okay. So yeah, I've been playing Sable, and I had played the demo a while back and enjoyed it, so I was looking forward to this. And then playing it now, I am still enjoying it, but I definitely get a better sense of what the full game is. Like, I mean, I'd say I've probably put 3 or 4 hours into it now, and it is. I love the world. I love the look of it. Like, this is my. If we did the junkies for Game Junk, this would be up for Feast for Thine Eyes award for sure. But it's a very big world with not a lot of stuff in it. Like, it's very sparse. So you're doing a lot of just driving your glider across vast expanses, which, like I think that's part of the tone of the game, like is just that, it's kind of quiet and relaxing and you're just kind of out exploring. And I kind of like that. But at the same time, when you have, an objective, something specific you're trying to do, and you see on the map where you got to go, and it's just like, okay, drive for a straight line for like 10 minutes, and there's nothing along the way. Like, yeah, it's a bit of a problem. But, once you get to places, you can fast travel back and forth, so that helps. But, it is kind of Zelda-ish. Like, it definitely reminds me of Breath of the Wild. But the one thing that does feel like it's missing is there really is no combat. And I wasn't sure if that was something that they were going to add eventually in the game, but it doesn't seem like it. So it's really just a lot of climbing and trying to figure out how to get to places. And that's pretty much it. Like, it's just a lot of exploration, which I like, but it feels like there's a little bit of something missing. But other than that, like, I like the look and feel of it a lot. So I'm enjoying it. We'll keep playing it.
For me, the last thing I played was more of Persona 5 Royal, which I'm still really enjoying. I beat the first dungeon, and I believe they did dungeons similar in Persona 4, but basically you go into a dungeon and you basically have like 14 days or something to actually complete the dungeon. And along the dungeon, you can get to safe rooms, which are essentially your save spots, but they also act as just fast travel points. So whenever you get to one of these, you can either return to the exit to sort of leave the dungeon completely, or you can go to one of the other rooms to look for any treasures you may have missed. But I really like it, and the way you can sort of like explore, and then in a typical dungeon, in like a Final Fantasy game, if you run out of something, you're either screwed or you have to like use an escape and then start from the very beginning again. And I like this method more, where the dungeon is actually longer and too difficult to really take on in one go. And so you need to leave, collect money, go upgrade your weapons, maybe buy some, use that money that you gained from the dungeon to buy some items to make it easier. But I do like this idea of having it take longer. There is a bit of stress aspect to it though, where you don't know how long the dungeon is, and you only have 14 days, and you have other things you're trying to accomplish also in these 14 days. And so it does play on you, where like, oh, should I go in now? I don't know if I have enough money to buy this equipment, sort of thing. Like, should I wait and, maybe do my part-time job to get more money to then be able to buy more stuff? So there is this like stress that exists. And I remember this in Persona 4. But I feel like it's a little easier to tell. The safe rooms kind of give you an idea of roughly how far through the dungeon you are. You know, you have a little character that'll be like, oh, I think we're about halfway through or whatever. So you can kind of judge it a little bit. But for the first dungeon, you get to the end, and then it turns out that you actually need to do one more thing, which takes one more day. So if I had waited right till the end to do that, I would have got screwed, which I didn't know about. So that part, I was glad I had done it early, but I could see it, people maybe getting frustrated if they had waited right to the end, thinking like, oh, I'm right beside the final boss, I'll just kind of wait till my last day and then go in, and you would have not been able to do it. So that part probably could have been designed a little better or telegraphed a little better, that you would need to do that in order to like limit your frustration. But overall, I like this idea of the larger dungeon that you have to kind of come back to, and it's not randomly generated like in Persona 4, so there is continuity when you come back, which is nice. And yeah, still really liking it. Like all the characters, still love the UI. Really like this game actually. So that's it for me.
Cool.
All right. Anyone else have anything? I think that's it.
Nope.
Thanks for listening. Check out youtube.com/GameJunk. Andrew is on Twitter at MindGreeCommute and Equilibrium Sys. Sean is at FilmJunk. And probably some serious Metroid Dread talk next week, since it comes out on Friday. We record on Sundays now. I anticipate I will have completed the game, but who knows?
Let's see.
But until then,
I may even have to pick this one up, so
Nice.
watch out.
Couldn't get it at the library, already on reserve.
Oh, I have it already on reserve, but I might have to just give Nintendo their payola on this one.
Nice. All right, well, we'll see you then. Thanks for listening. Bye-bye.